In October 2017, my community forever changed when Northern California caught on fire and didn't stop burning for 3 weeks. The October 2017 wine country fires were the costliest group of wildfires on record at the time, causing around $14.5 billion in damages, including $1.5 billion in fire suppression costs. And those are just the direct costs. Total estimated economic damage comes to $85 billion. 245,000 acres burned, 44 civilians died, 192 people sustained serious injuries, 8,900 structures burned, including 5,300 in Sonoma County, where I live and serve as a Sonoma County Supervisor. For the first 3 days of the wildfire, the side of our 6-lane freeway was on fire. I was driving to work like I do every day, but the wooden posts that held up the guardrails were on fire. The metal rails were sagging towards the pavement. It didn't strike me as odd that the side of the road was on fire because at that time, half the county was on fire. But what I will never forget is that no one seemed to care. No one was there to put out the flames that licked up the guardrail and turned an oak tree into a torch on the side of the freeway. We let it burn. This went on for a few days. There just weren't enough firefighters. 5 days into the wildfire, I remember calling our state and federal legislators to beg for more resources, to beg for help. But our fire had started last, and resources couldn't be released from other active fires burning throughout the state of California. After a week or so, I was able to view some of the damage. In the wake of a firestorm, it's like you've landed on Mars. I remember driving down a road, reaching a cul-de-sac, turning around. It was only on the way out, minutes after I'd seen it, that I realized that the chimney I'd just seen belonged to a friend. He'd built the stone fireplace by hand. I knew this neighborhood, but it was barely recognizable. I'd sipped mugs of tea in the house that was now reduced to ash and a single stone chimney. But life goes on, right? Sonoma County faded from the headlines. Our record-setting fire became a footnote in history when 1 year and 1 month later, Butte County caught on fire. That fire burned 153,000 acres, setting new records. It cost $16.5 billion in direct damage. 85 people were killed. More than 18,000 structures were destroyed and entire towns were leveled. The news cycle moved on from Butte County too, but the disasters haven't stopped for us. Since October 2017, only 3 years ago, we have gone through 4 subsequent major wildfire events, in addition to our 6th largest flood in recorded history. Now you might wonder why, when we're here to talk about water, I'm starting out by talking about fire. First of all, mass wildfire events threaten our drinking water quality. But they are also the most tangible example I have that we are no longer talking about climate change. We are talking about a changed climate. Today, our county is different from the one my father-in-law grew up in, from the one my husband grew up in, or even the one I moved to just a little over a decade ago. We used to have predictable rain. We used to have predictable fog. In fact, we named our farm Foggy River Farm, not knowing that smoke would more frequently cloud our skies than fog. In our new climate reality, in our changed climate, groundwater is at risk from depletion and saline intrusion. Our surface water supplies are at risk in an era that alternates between drought and flood. Our public drinking water system for 500,000 people relies on natural filtration by river gravel, which is at risk from ash-filled runoff that threatens the ecosystem service we most depend on. Now, this could easily become a sob story, yet I am here to tell you that we are more prepared now than we were in 2017. In 3 years, we have overhauled our emergency communication systems, enabling us to more effectively and more safely evacuate residents from subsequent fires. We are creating redundant communication systems through combinations of low-tech and high-tech infrastructure. These solutions are extremely affordable, especially when you consider the cost of the alternative and take into account the value of the human lives saved. Today, we have created warning capacity through wireless emergency alerts, opt-in messaging systems, reverse 911 calls, weather radios, and even old-fashioned high-low sirens affixed to patrol cars and helicopters. Whether we're talking about fire or flood, this allows us to get people out of the way faster. It allows us to save human lives. We are also utilizing technology that facilitates the early detection of fire and flood weather, affording us precious extra days and hours to prepare for fire and flood events. We have partnered with the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes at UC San Diego to enhance our forecasting capability for atmospheric river events. This in turn feeds into our forecast-informed reservoir operations systems, allowing us to moderate the levels in our reservoir in anticipation of incoming rain or lack thereof. Enhanced forecasting capabilities also allow us to better anticipate incoming fire weather. This, combined with a public message campaign, allows our residents to prepare for the possibility of a wildfire with a rapid rate of spread. 5 years ago, the majority of Sonoma County residents didn't know what a red flag warning was. Now it's a common term. Most residents know when we're under a red flag warning and have their go bags packed, their critical documents secured, and an evacuation plan ready. But one of the best things to come out of the 2017 wildfires was a high-tech twist on an ancient idea. For generations, a local fire department has staffed a fire lookout on our highest coastal mountaintop, Pole Mountain. Firefighters would climb a ladder and sit with binoculars day and night, staring out into the darkened sky or blazing sun to scan for signs of fire. Today, rather than sending firefighters up ladders onto rickety stilted structures, we have instead outfitted many of our mountaintops with infrared cameras that can detect smoke or flame day or night. This allows analysts to triangulate the precise starting location of a fire. When combined with meteorological data, this real-time information enables us to get to fires faster and then to fight them more strategically. And because the data is publicly available in real time, citizen fire spotters have also jumped into the fray, providing real-time updates to their communities via social media and also successfully reporting spot fires and post-conflagration flare-ups to local authorities. In our changed climate, there is a pressing need for all levels of government to make data-driven decisions and utilize the best available technology to adapt to emergent circumstances. We can't wait. We must respond in real time with cost-effective solutions to protect the health and well-being of our communities. But at the same time, we also need to meaningfully invest in long-term risk reduction strategies. And this is where our county, and in fact, our entire country, is failing. We have the organizational capacity to respond to disasters after they occur. In Sonoma County, we call it the disaster industrial complex. And I've been through enough disasters to know that it mobilizes like this every time the stuff hits the fan. While we respond effectively to disasters that occur, we lack the organizational capacity to meaningfully reduce the risk of catastrophe. We need to save water quality and preserve water supplies before it's too late. We need to reduce the risk of wildfires before they start. It simply does not make sense for us to spend $14.5 billion on one wildfire event one year and $16.5 billion on another wildfire event the next. If we took even 1/10 of those costs and invested it in wildfire risk reduction for Northern California, we could treat 1.5 million acres of forest or harden 3 million homes. While the Federal Emergency Management Agency offers grant opportunities to local jurisdictions to reduce risk, this does not amount to a national or even local risk reduction strategy. And grant programs typically favor well-resourced cities or counties like ours with teams of grant writers. Oftentimes, these grants are used to shore up failing infrastructure rather than actually reduce risk. We need a national data-driven approach to wildfire, flood, and water supply risk reduction. But I'd like to leave you on a note of hope. It might sound crazy, but hopefully the right kind of crazy. Sonoma Water, our water agency, is investing in efforts to support our forest ecosystems and return them to what they looked like before our redwoods were clear-cut to build San Francisco. For the record, North Coast Forests built San Francisco twice, once in the 1800s and once again after the 1906 earthquake. Through a partnership between Sonoma Water and the University of California Cooperative Extension, we are working to deploy prescribed burns, holistic rotational grazing, and sustainable forestry techniques to our wild and working lands. While I'm proud of our investments in anthropogenic infrastructure like emergency alert systems and wildfire cameras, I'm most proud of our investments in our natural infrastructure, the infrastructure of our ecosystems. The coniferous old growth groves of bygone days sequester more carbon, reduce our fire risk, and support greater biodiversity. The only way forward is to work with nature rather than against her, which means government partnering with academia to better understand the environments in which we operate and implementing science-based risk reduction strategies. I am thrilled that the National Council for Science and the Environment is tackling the topic of climate in partnership with Project Drawdown and continuing to bridge the long-standing gap between science-based solutions and policymakers. This work is critical to ensuring adequate, safe water supplies into the future. Thank you.